Hey folks, Coach Mike Thomas here. Today I want to talk about the blue zones, what they are and some common characteristics that they have. We're going to get into that specifically in just a moment, but I want to share with you that I just heard a statistic that's mind-boggling, and that is that almost 750,000 people in the United States every year die prematurely because of the foods that they eat. This ties in really well with the 4 characteristics of the blue zones. So let's jump into the blue zones and discuss the 4 characteristics and how each one of those can help us to live longer and healthier lives. Let's get started. Hi again, Mike Thomas here. If you're new to my channel, I'm a registered pharmacist converted to health coach. I help people lose weight by incorporating more plants into their diet, all without hunger. I also want to share with you for just a second that I have written a book. It's a free ebook available to you if you're interested, called Making Change Stick. It's a 10-chapter book that discusses the different principles that I see as sustainable behavior change. It's really easy to change. It's just difficult to make sure that that change is sustainable. Feel free to click on the link in the description of this video to get your free copy of this ebook. So the blue zones. The blue zones are 5 areas within the world, one of them is actually in the United States as well, whereby they live longer lives and they live healthier lives. So if we look at those areas in the world and we take the common characteristics, that can help us, if we're interested, to live longer and healthier lives. This video digs specifically into those character traits and why they're incredibly important. How can we model the way and say, I want some of that? I want to live longer and I want to live healthier. It's the difference between health span and lifespan. Lifespan is the number of years that you live. Health span is the number of years that you have health in your life. And in the blue zones, they have abundance of both. In fact, they have 4 times as many people that live to the age of 100 than the regular population of the world in these specific blue zones. And the activities and the health of these people in their 80s, 90s, and even over 100 is phenomenal. So it's not just living a longer life, it's living a highly vibrant and healthy life as well. So when we look at the blue zones, we notice a highlight that there's common traits that they have within the environment of those blue zones that help to affect people living longer and healthier lives. So that's good news. Those are things that we can control with our environment, with our actions, and what we're doing with our lives. Versus, there's some studies that say 5 to 10% of our overall health is impacted by genetics. We don't have control of our genetics. Our genetics are what they are. But with regards to the blue zones, there's things within the environment that can be significantly impactful to help us to live healthier lives. So this gives us control. Before I jump into some of those specific common traits and characteristics that the blue zones have, I want to share with you, and you may already know, but I want to let you know, there's an amazing Netflix special out called Live to be 100. It's authored by and narrated by Dan Buettner, who has done his study basically for 25 to 30 years. He's studied the blue zones, and he's got a ton of data, information that can help people to live healthier lives. I highly recommend this documentary mini-series. I think there's 4 shows and they're all about 45 minutes each. But he goes through each of the blue zones, the 5 blue zones within the world, and talks about the specific characteristics and traits that they have. And also, the last show gets into what we can do in controlling our own health and wellness by taking some of the wins that the blue zones have experienced, some of those characteristics. After watching the blue zone special, Live to be 100, I wrote down a few things that I thought were pretty powerful quotes. One of those is that the blue zones have much lower rates of obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and dementia, something that we struggle with significantly in America. Longevity doesn't have to be difficult. It can be joyous, and you see that in the video as well. One of the blue zones in Costa Rica spends 1/10 per capita the amount of money that we spend in the United States. And, oh, by the way, their life expectancy is longer than ours. There's got to be something that they're doing that's working better, and it's not about throwing money at the problem. So there's 4 common traits to the blue zones that I want to share with you. The first one is, probably not a surprise, many of the people that live in the blue zones primarily eat a plant-based diet. They have minimal consumption of meat and dairy, and they eat very little, if any, processed foods. And just as a reminder, our plant-based in America, 10% of our calories come from whole food plant-based for your typical American. 30% is from protein and 60% roughly is from processed foods. So what can we do to push that 10 to a 20? What can we do to push that 10 to a 50? And how much more healthy can we be because of that? So with each characteristics, I've delineated out just a handful of items of why this is incredibly important to our health. With regards to plant-based diets, obviously we get better nutrition and we even get enough protein. Number 2, like I mentioned before, is we have reduced risk for things like heart disease and diabetes. And the third reason why plant-based eating can be helpful for you and your health is it promotes a strong immune system because of the large amount of antioxidants and anti-inflammatories that are being consumed. So number 1 is plant-based diet. Number 2, again, probably not a surprise, and it's going to be my general overall theme next week, and that is movement. Many of these folks that live in these blue zones are getting a significant amount of movement in their life, and they're not exercising, ironically. The movement that they're getting is what they're doing in their daily activities. They walk significantly more than your average person. They're gardening. They're parking further away from the grocery store. Most of them aren't even driving. Most of them are biking. So why is movement important? I think most of this we know. Obviously, physicality-wise, it's helpful and healthy to your body. But the mental and emotional piece and why this is important is so incredibly critical. A lot of us think about, I want to move more because I want to be physically more healthy, which of course is important. But the mental and emotional piece and how that's beneficial when we move is often overlooked. And the last reason why movement is important is because it helps you with stamina, overall physical strength. So you're able to participate in activities such as walking and getting around, which is incredibly important as we get older because it's that much more difficult. The third characteristic of the blue zone is social connection, and this one is often overlooked. If I ask somebody, are you healthy? Typically they'll think about the fuel they're feeding their body with and the movement that they're getting, and they'll respond, oh, absolutely, I'm healthy because I'm doing those things. Most people don't think about social connections, but it actually is one of the strongest pillars of lifestyle medicine, social connection. What's going on with your social connections in your life? And in the blue zones, that is definitely one of the characteristics that bubbled up was what is happening with family relationships, with friendships. That social connection is incredibly important. We saw what happened in the United States and the rest of the world with COVID when we were more isolated and we didn't have as many social connections, and how this affected the suicide rates, depression rates, etc. Julian Holt-Lunstead, a professor at BYU, basically states that lacking in social connection can carry the same amount of risk as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's impactful when we think about smoking and how we would never do that. But many of us struggle on a day-by-day basis with loneliness and how incredibly impactful that is to the detriment of our health. So what are the reasons why social connection are important? There's so many, but here's just a few. Social connection enhances belonging and well-being overall. It also enhances our mental and emotional states. And again, there's so many things that intersect here, but social connection can help with the physicality, with immune function, and faster recovery from illnesses. So far with the three, we've got plant-based eating, we've got movement, and we've got social connection. The last one is purpose. Many of the people that lived in the blue zones had purpose in their life. They're clear about what that purpose is. Here's a few reasons why purpose in your life is important. It gives your life meaning and it gives your life direction. It helps you to motivate you and helps you with resilience when challenges happen, knowing that you have purpose and you've got that North Star. And in general, it helps you with less stress and overall well-being by having a positive outlook on your overall future. So there's two intersections I want to talk about with regards to blue zones. The first one is the intersection between these 5 different areas of those characteristics, the ones I just shared with you: plant-based eating, movement, social connection, and purpose. The other intersection is how each of those parallel and overlap each other. Stress helps when you get more movement. Purpose helps you with stress. Eating healthier gives you physical vitality. There's so many things that they interact with and intersect with to help and support each other. So what do we take away from the blue zones? Well, if you look at the special at the end, Dan Buettner discusses how he's using these philosophies to help certain cities and even potentially countries to make some changes. And there's some pretty exciting things, I think, that are coming down and that actually are happening. But that is from the outside in. That is waiting on government, that's waiting on policy to help you specifically to be more healthy. But I would implore you to say, we cannot wait. We cannot wait for somebody else to help us to make us to be more healthy. Let's take ownership of our own lives and figure out what we can do to be more healthy ourselves, which is about taking personal responsibility for our own health, which is scary, but it gives you the control. We can't wait. In fact, Mel Robbins says, no one is coming. We have to take personal responsibilities for our lives. So that's the blue zones and what we can take away from what they're doing and what they're doing well to help them to live longer and healthier lives. Based on this information, I'm curious, what do you find specifically that you can do in your own lives, even if it's just something very, very small, to make progress on one of these characteristics? Something about plant-based eating, something about movement. What about social connection? And how about purpose? Is there something that comes to mind for you where it can help you and support you in your process of making change towards health and wellness? I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to put your comment in the description below. And of course, at the end, I always like to say, thanks so much for hanging with me for this entire video. If you like this video, if it resonates with you, if you feel like it's helpful, feel free to like and subscribe. That would be wonderful and help with the algorithm so more people are seeing these videos that I'm making. Also, I want to know what you want to hear from me. I made this blue zone video because I noticed a few weeks ago when I talked about the blue zones, I got a lot more views on that specific 35-second clip. So I want to just fill in the gaps and share some more information about this incredibly important information. That's it for now. God bless. Thanks so much for watching.